sitting here with Stephen Noomen.
Hi.
Hi. We talked before a couple of times on video and also on just audio tape in Dutch,
Yes.
and now in English. Is there a particular reason why we're talking English right now?
Well, actually all of my spiritual education I've gotten in English, and I have lots of friends who speak English and are interested in what I have to say, and I've translated many things I've written and other people have written. I just like to do this.
Yeah.
It's like an introduction to them for who I am.
Yeah. And what's this thing you love talking about most, Stephen? Drinking tea?
Yeah, well, that's actually not how I work. I respond. I respond to what I see which is needed. So I wait for what other people are interested in and how they come with it to me.
Yeah.
So I don't have a story, it's like this, and then you have to do this, and then you have to see that, and blah, blah. I've tried many times to write a book, and for that reasons I never did. Because I never know what's relevant right here, right now. It's always alive in the moment. You cannot freeze that down in a general story.
So
Not without compromising it.
So it's up to me what's coming out right now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that gives a big responsibility. Let me just do one more thing with my headphones so I can hear you right. I have an article here which you wrote for a Dutch magazine called Insight.
Yeah.
And this talks about radical, how do you call it in English?
Self-inquiry.
Self-inquiry. Why the word radical?
Because the magazine asked me to use that.
Okay.
The whole magazine is actually, with the subtitle, what is it? Motto, magazine for radical self-inquiry,
Yeah.
and all sorts of things like that. And the theme of this very issue was actually self-inquiry, radical self-inquiry as well. So I was asked to write an article on that very subject.
And what is it to you, radical self-inquiry?
A key, but a part of what we can do to cooperate with the whole process of awakening.
And when I'm just, let's say, getting to know this subject about self-inquiry, I would think that I would have to get a pen and a big notebook and write down everything there is to know about myself. Is that a way of self-inquiry, or is that a wrong way, or is that not radical enough?
That's a personal way of self-inquiry, which can have its benefits, but it's not the primary way to approach a spiritual interest in self-inquiry. The first thing self-inquiry focuses on is the identification with this I am me, I am this person, I am this human being with this personality and with this sense of me. Well, self-inquiry focuses on, is that who I am, this sense of me, of this person, of this body? And actually, if we really look well, there's nothing to find. So all we find is perception, the process of perceiving. And so we are that very process, or other people say there's nothing to find, so I am this unspeakable nothing in which all perceptions, including space-time and so-called personal experiences, appear in. That's quite a discovery. You see that for the first time. And if you learn to, let's say, identify with it, to be it.
To be what?
That nothing.
But how can I identify with something I don't know?
by being it, because you are already it.
Okay,
What you have to do is stop pretending to be this me thing. This me thing is a concept which is practical for functioning in this physical world. Because in this physical world there is a this body and a that body, and well, that body, not a dead body, a that body. Sorry for my English. A simple word for this body is me, if I speak about it. It's just a practical concept, and it's not something to get rid of, or even this sense of I to get rid of. Many spiritual traditions speak about death of the ego and radical transformation, and this I am me thing will never come back again, which is actually a big exaggeration. It's not like that. It's rather that the sense of me starts to encompass so much more than just this body and person thing. And realization. So not something you have to remember or think of, but it's a direct experience that persists because it's who you are. It's your being, and you are being your being. You're not being your identification.
So is there anything wrong with identification?
No.
What's
It's what we need. It's everything right with it, because it's what we need to function here. Here in Holland, there's a strong tradition based on teachings of Nisargadatta, and I've started just for fun to count the number of times that he used the word I as this person for himself. In that book, on the first 2 pages, I believe it was 13.
Yeah. So nothing wrong with using the word I, or saying I am hungry, I want to go to sleep.
No. How can there be something wrong with it?
No. But when you start searching, that's the first thing you think. I've got to get rid of my I. I've got to get rid of my ego.
You have to get rid of the limitation of regarding the sense of I means only this person and only that. Never anything more. But this person thing is just an aspect of what you are. Tiny aspect.
So there's a cat now sitting on your lap. Could you say that you are as much Stephen as you are that cat?
In a sense, yes, and in another sense, no, not at all. Both.
So no absolute truth about this.
Not that you can grasp with your dualistic thinking. Yeah, truth is plural. It's like a gem, like a diamond with many facets, and our thinking and our, especially when we communicate our thoughts, can only focus on one facet of the gem at a time.
It's either this or it's that.
Yeah, but you can't say 200 things at the same time. And all those 200 perspectives are all true, from a different relevance.
So no absolute truth can be found through thinking.
No.
That's a relief. That immediately stops the search for absolute truth.
It stops the search with using your mind.
Yeah.
Truth is not an insight. No.
Truth is not an insight. What is truth then? You could say a realization?
That's an insight.
That's still an insight.
It's alive. It's an alive communication in the very present moment with your being. It's my teacher said it's a vibration. It's the vibration of truth.
It's a quality.
Yes.
Could you say who your biggest teacher was? You're talking about right now?
Simon. I never knew his surname.
Okay. And is he still around in this person's now?
No, he's dead.
Okay. Okay, but back to that was interesting. Truth is a quality.
Yes.
A quality of being.
No, a quality of intention.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about this before in our Dutch interview. For people who are watching this, they can be found on. You just Google Steven's name and you'll find this interview. You say truth knows what is needed.
Right.
Can you explain that a little more?
Because truth, it's not only what you understand about what is true, it must also be relevant in the very situation where it's seen to be true.
Mm.
So I can say I'm this nothing, and it's, intellectually speaking, totally true. But it's not necessarily what somebody else who's listening to me needs to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And that intention must be in line with truth too. It must be indeed true that it is what he needs to hear right now.
Mm.
Otherwise, it isn't truth what I'm demonstrating.
So it could be true for some people at that very moment.
Exactly, but not necessarily.
But you still have, not you, but a lot of your colleague teachers have a lot of big meetings where there come like 50 or 100 people, which are not talked to one at a time. So...
Yeah, well, then you stick to superficial generalizations.
Yeah.
Or you get the vibe of somebody adjusting, really giving maatwerk, what is it? Tailored answer to the intention of the question. The more serious somebody brings a subject, the deeper the response can be. And that meeting of love of truth can be very inspiring for everyone around. That's true too.
So that quality...
It's not necessarily about the contents of what's being said. It's often much more about how people meet.
Mm. So the quality of that truth is something contagious, something people immediately recognize when truth is spoken?
Yes, in principle, not necessarily practically. It's a recognition in the heart, in a deep spot of the heart, not an emotional or personal part of the heart, but there is some deep spot in the heart that starts to smile when truth is dealt with in such a careful and loving way. Yes.
Yeah. You also talk a lot about, also in this article, about being truthful to yourself, real radical honesty. How do I know if I'm acting out of truth or honesty?
Well, one of the most made mistakes is denial of the actual resistance against the experience of this moment. 99% of the time there is, one way or another, some resistance against how things simply are. And usually we go mental, especially if we have attended some satsangs and met some teachers and say, well, this is all there is and this is how it is and that's it. That's being superficial or being so-called spiritual as a way to deny this very resistance that's there already, part of your present experience also. So that's why I emphasize this honesty, so you're truthful with this very resistance. Is there resistance against some part of this moment, or isn't there not?
Something that everybody can recognize is being stuck in traffic.
Right.
For me, then a big resistance comes up.
For instance.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the car, I can't go left, I can't go right.
There doesn't need to be happening something. There is a chronic dissatisfaction with life, even if nothing happens.
A chronic dissatisfaction with life. That it's never good enough.
Right. That's this resistance that we all have.
And how come?
Because that's how we function. That's what our subconscious mind does.
Telling something's wrong.
Yeah, it's a machine with the intelligence of, let's say, a 3 or 4 year old child. And it's a machine because what it does is scanning the moment, non-stop. And
finding something to complain about.
Right, to put it on a scale from 1 to 100, from totally unenjoyable to totally enjoyable, and no matter how it's on the scale, it can always be better, and if it's even 100% fun, then there is this danger that it gets less. So from its memories, it constantly blows strategies in your thinking mind to make it
improve.
better,
Yeah.
to make the moment better, and to keep it better, to control. This whole system is natural and very necessary. It's just, let's say, the animal part, the animalistic part of our human being, and its governings, basic, primal, things like survival and, and more practical things also. And in that sense, it's much needed. But what is not so practical about it is that it's permanent and constant, and that it's not investigated, so that we, in our thinking mind, just follow it and believe it. That the implication of this scanning and machine-like approach of the subconscious is that it's never good enough.
Yeah.
And that's
Suffering.
That's suffering, and that's a big non-truth, untruth, lie, painful.
Yeah.
To take it seriously in the way you live.
I sometimes talk to my friend Paul about this, and we come to the conclusion that it's capitalism. It's that from young child.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. From being a young child, you are taught that you still have to get that new toy, that new watch, that new car. Then you're satisfied. Then you're complete. You say it's something much more deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, in the non-capitalistic countries, people aren't suffering less because of that.
Could you say that capitalism emphasizes on this, that it makes use of it? that smart marketeers know about this thing in your subconsciousness?
It's exploited, yes.
Yeah. Because all commercials talk about you have to get this, and this. You still have an iPhone 4? Man, the iPhone 7 is coming around. What are you, a loser? You want to get some water?
I'm killing myself. See, look at my own tea.
So, Stephen, for the second part, let's go to the thing you talk about. You call it in your interview or your article in the magazine Insight, chronic dissatisfaction. What can we do to recognize this chronic dissatisfaction and maybe get beyond it or above it, however you want to call it?
First of all, we need to realize it's part of how we are as a human being.
It's functioning.
It's not something to get rid of. That would be like trying to get rid of your intestines because it gives shit in your toilet.
Yeah. So, what can we do?
We can learn to see it for what it is and to learn to appreciate it for what it is and stop following it and overusing it when it's not conducive to that's what I call proper living, simply human living. You don't want to live as a undissatisfied subconscious mind projected as a human being. Then you're just an animal.
Yeah. It sounds like an adolescent child. How do you call it? The age of 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
They're always dissatisfied.
Yeah.
But to the max.
Yeah.
You know? Everything is stupid. People are stupid. Parents are stupid. School is stupid. Everything is stupid.
And the damnedest thing about it is that we remain like that. Unless we really investigate. Well, we get milder and we get wiser and we get older. We stop fighting and going against it. We lose our youthful intensity. But not everybody finds peace.
So how to find peace? Transformation.
By learning to see that this voice, this dissatisfied voice, cannot be stopped and is not supposed to be stopped. It's to be taken and regarded like a mother takes her crying child. She doesn't do that, I hope, in order to stop the child crying. So
should I talk to myself and give myself I tell everything is going to be alright, or how do you...
Well, you can say aloud, this moment, just as it is perfectly enough to be totally satisfied and happy. And
Out loud?
Out loud, preferably. And then you listen inside. And then you hear the subconscious talking to you and say, no, because I want this and that to be different.
Yeah.
And then don't try to convince this voice. Don't try to change its mind. Just allow it to do its thing, complaining.
Yeah.
Like a great parent with a teenager. He doesn't try to change his mind. It won't work.
What does he do?
He loves the teenager for what he is. It's just part of the very moment.
Yeah.
The screaming teenager.
Yeah.
So if you don't believe this, it should be different, but you see the voice of, I want this to be different, then it gets very different, because it's part of the very experience. It's like being in a beautiful house, but the neighbor has a little radio on and you can't change it. Okay, then be happy with the little noise.
Yeah. Stop fighting with what is.
Exactly. But realize there is just this noise in this very moment too.
Okay, so we have to make a distinction between the subconscious you're talking about and what a lot of your colleagues, for example, Eckhart Tolle talks about, the ego. He says that this voice which is complaining is constantly the ego.
You can call it like that,
yeah?
Sure. Of course, the subconscious takes everything totally personally.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's what it does.
Everything is against or for me. Yeah. How do you call it in your article? Taking everything, making everything personal. And is that also a mechanism for survival?
Well, that's what the subconscious does.
Yeah. What's in it for me?
Right. That's the basic question of the subconscious. What's in it for me? What do I get from it? And how can I control it that I get what I like?
Yeah, and keep getting it.
Keep getting it.
Yeah. But we as grown-ups know that the first time you taste that great piece of cake is special, and if you get 2 or 3 more pieces of cake, then you think, well, okay, I'm done with that. Next thing.
Yeah, but then the world is full of possible new experiences.
Yeah.
That's why you see that people seek thrills, excitement. If it isn't new, it's boring.
Yeah. But some people, for example me, have tried to find it in everything, sex, money, cars, big trips, sightseeing, whatever. And then sometimes the world cannot give you anything anymore. Is that a point you have to reach to go deeper? Or can this also be done without first trying everything in the world?
Well, this is what I called being addicted to the human world. This civilization is so goddamn stuck in this very addiction that it's very hard to extricate yourself from it, because everybody around you is totally an experienced junkie too.
Yeah, living for that moment, living for the Saturday evening.
So you have to be a total renegade to stop your own habits in that. It's one thing to be a drug addict, it's something else to be a drug addict among nothing but drug addicts. So usually people have to go through the whole process of being an addict and getting totally sick and tired of it before they start to even think of a problem, let alone a solution. Yes.
Yeah, and consider another way of living.
And then usually they go to the psychologist and the doctor and the therapist. And
there's something wrong with me. I cannot find enjoyment in the world no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
You say that's just a sign of waking up, or?
Well, I'm not saying that psychology is invalid altogether. Of course, you have to learn how you are as a human being and to live your life according to it. Not like a copy of somebody else's thinking, And we have all been conditioned with how we should be, and that's not necessarily how we, as a human being, truly are. But that's one thing, that's the psychological part of it. The real source of happiness is not a psychological thing. The real source of happiness is the joy of being. The joy of being with your own true being, with who you, with what you are, not with who you are. You are the source of happiness. You are this very yes to this life.
So happiness is not something you get out of the world, it's something you bring into the world?
Yes, essentially. But
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you can do in the world whatever you want and it doesn't matter. That's not true. You have to live accordingly to what fits you as a human being. Psychology is something that needs to be taken into account too. Of course.
Yeah. So Stephen, in this world of non-duality, or how we call it, all those people talk about this subject, the free will is something that comes up a lot.
Oh yeah, oh God.
And I know you have a different view on this thing called free will. No?
I don't. But I don't have a limited view on this thing.
Okay, tell us something about it. Do I have free will?
Sure you do.
So how I'm sitting right now is not something that just happened.
What is just happening?
Well, without me thinking about it, or without me deciding to sit like I'm sitting right now.
If it wasn't decided, how did you come there?
Well, it just simply happened. That's what all those Advaita teachers tell me.
Yeah. Everything happens by itself. No, I have never seen it by itself doing anything.
Okay, so then you could say this body-mind decided to sit like this because it's comfortable.
You can say it's, in that sense, part of your subconscious programming to find comfort.
Yeah.
And you, as a conscious thinker, agreed with that programming,
Aha.
with that strategy.
So there's still...
But you're always free to refuse that strategy. There's nothing that forces you to follow it.
Yeah.
So yes, it's true that the subconscious programming, with all our conditioning and all our strategies and all our experience, feeds us constantly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens already. It looks into the future, it sees things coming.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that we're free to refuse this in our conscious thinking.
But what is that thing that makes those decisions and refuses this?
Why should it be a thing?
Well, that still gives me a sense of me and I who
Right.
decides to do things.
That's the story you make of it.
Okay, is it the brain then which makes
That's
decisions?
not a thing. It's the complex of everything. It's like you can't dissect a car and say, "Yeah, I never found a car. I found 30,000 parts."
But all together makes the car.
Yeah.
So everything decides if I'm sitting this way or not.
What is everything? Everything of your system.
Well, maybe more than that.
Yeah, it's diffuse.
This chair,
No.
still a living thing.
The chair?
No, what makes it that I'm so curious about? What makes that decision about sitting like this, you drinking tea? Is it the body? Is it okay? You just explained the subconscious says we need to refresh our
I think
mind.
the whole way to approach this subject is insane. Doesn't work. Of course, it is true that 95% of what we do is simply following a program. But it doesn't mean that those 5 other % doesn't exist. And our conscious thinking certainly has an influence on those 95%, non-stop. So the contents of this 95% is developing because of our conscious thinking.
Okay.
So there's a symbiosis going on.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that you're in control.
But I have some...
But the subconscious isn't in control either.
Okay.
And
But
it's too easy to say it happens all by itself. Yeah, because you're thinking and then your subconscious is all.
Mm-hmm. But you agree with that?
Well, but it doesn't mean anything.
No. Still looking for this absolute truth about things. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having an answer for your mind to feel satisfied intellectually.
Yeah.
That's useless aim.
Is that something to be concerned about or to watch for? That you don't get this Advaita thing as a mental image that, well, everything is happening by itself, so I don't have to choose, I don't have to take responsibility, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, it can be a great pointer. It can show you in a way that you have never seen before. This sense of me is, I took it so seriously,
Yeah.
I believed myself to be it. And it's totally empty, it's just a story about a story. In that sense, it can be a great baseball bat to
Open
smash the whole thing to smithereens, as they say in English. Well, that's great, but don't make a religion out of this then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baseball bat is the truth. Baseball bat is the truth.
Yeah. Okay, but thinking that I'm some person who has to make a decision about everything, and the one day I feel like a failure because some of the things didn't work out. One day I feel like a success because things did work out. Is that the way? That's the way most people live. Good days, bad days. Good days, the days everything went according to the plan I made.
It's all true, but you have to look at it from a perspective of you being you as a being, not being a person, not being a human.
Okay.
The human thing is just a tool for your being.
Okay, but does being have preferences?
And intentions, yes.
Yes?
But not human preferences. Very different reasons.
Something we can conceive with our minds?
Not conceive, but we can
comprehend.
We can receive them and learn to recognize them. We can attune ourselves to it.
Divine intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about this before in Dutch. How can I recognize something that is just purely about me, and getting satisfied, or the divine purpose of things, that everyone, or maybe the whole world, gets something out of it?
You have to attune yourself to this way of functioning, this quality of intending. That's the quality of your being, and you're free to choose to cut yourself free of it, or to reconnect with it.
Okay.
That's your choice. And if you escape this choice by philosophizing about free will, then you're missing the point. That's what I meant.
Yeah. A couple of minutes ago we talked about quality. I could imagine that the quality of divine intentions is a whole other ball game than quality of ego.
In divine quality intention, everything supports everything else.
Things start working together, or falling into place.
Everything supports everything else. So in that sense, if you really look, even our so-called beautiful nature is not so divine.
No?
No.
Why not?
Because everything competes with everything else.
I saw a BBC documentary which showed the connection between everything.
Well, that's something else, but it's a predatory connection.
It's feeding on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not supporting. It's not the antelope who says, "Okay, let me be your food."
Well, sometimes it looks. You can imagine that it works like that, but it's not. That's not the way. What can I find it in the world then? This divine intention?
No, hardly.
Hardly, but it can be found.
Well, you have to really dig for the quality of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can restore your own intentions back to that quality, yes, but it's a tough job.
Where to start?
In the heart. In your love of truth.
The heart knows.
Yeah.
A Dutch colleague of yours who doesn't live anymore, Alexander Smit, talked about integrity. He says something in you knows that you're fooling around. Something inside you knows immediately if you are shitting someone else.
That's what I call usually the voice of your soul. Your heart knows.
Yeah. But it can be ignored.
Easily. It's a very subtle voice. It's so much softer than the voice of your thinking or your emotions. Yeah. It's so easily to go with those loud voices. Yes. So it takes a lot of honesty. That's why I use the word so often.
Mm-hmm.
And simply dedication to listen to that voice and to live for it. Not to live for less, like the simple voices of your emotions and beliefs.
Yeah.
Something in you knows what's really true and relevant. Okay, listen, and okay, hearken, follow. Obey is a word I don't like, but respond, that's the word.
And so it's like a little whisper inside of me who says no, or yes, or...
Yes, but that's a dangerous thing, because let's say some people call it their conscience. But your conscience can also be a memory of what your mother said, behave like this, behave like that. That's something totally different. So you have to be familiar with this heart quality of intention. That's the signal light that you're listening to the right voice. If your heart, in that deep sense, starts to smile because it's really true, because it resonates with the quality of intention of your being, then you're listening to the right voice.
Intuition?
You call it like that, sure.
Yeah.
But no matter how you call it, the word won't make you connect with it. The understanding is not how it works.
No.
It's a matter of trial and error and looking in yourself and experimenting with it. It's an inner experience that you have to test in actual practice.
What kind of practice?
Experimenting with it. So, listening inside, hearing a voice, following it, seeing what it brings, seeing how it feels, seeing how it works out. If it resonates with what people do who really inspire you. Or is it just confirmation of some idea?
It's not that voice which tells you to cross the street or not.
Usually not, no.
Well,
No, it's not about trivial things. It's about how you live in your life and for what reason. What's the fundament of what you're driven by? How do you derive spiritual learning from your experiences? What spiritual learning? How do you integrate them? How do you absorb it? Or do you just collect experiences and think, okay,
yeah.
That doesn't enrich your being. That doesn't make your being happy. You have experiences enough, but have you learned enough from them? That's what your being is interested in.
And what should I learn of an experience?
Quality of intention. What this word means. It's an experiment with intention quality. That's what life is.
Yeah. And it brings...
And if I could tell you it's this and that, can you learn from it? That doesn't work. It's like telling you E is MC squared and you know everything about the universe.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
I'm thinking about a recent event that happened. I was sitting outside an hotel in the sun on a bench, and some woman comes sitting next to me. She starts smoking a cigarette, and we say hi, and she gets up, goes back into the hotel, and I think, well, I'm going to sit on her spot because there's more sun there. There I find 50 euros, 50, how do you call it? Yeah, paper money. And I put it in my pocket. I think, before someone else. I think, well, I think that woman who just sat here, that's
forgotten.
Yeah, it's her 50 euros which fell out of her purse when she took a cigarette. Well, I'm thinking about, okay, I have to find this woman. I go into the hotel, looking in the lobby. No, not in the lobby. In the restaurant. No, not in the restaurant. Everywhere searching. And finally I see her sitting there. I go over to her and I said, Miss, you were just sitting next to me outside, yeah? Here's your €50. And the woman gives me a hug and says, do you want anything to drink? And my heart fills up with joy. I could have easily just thought, well, that's stupid, €50 for me. Is that quality of intention, or is that just, could that easily also be an ego which gets satisfied because it gets a hug? Or
Actually, she gets so excited because something so normal is so unusual.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be normal.
This shows how fucked up this world is.
Yeah. Yeah. But I people in how you call it in English? In Dutch they say, dat kon ik niet over mijn hart krijgen. I could have not given the money when I saw the woman. You know, it's not a choice. It's simply what's normal and what should happen.
Oh.
Yeah. But I was also thinking in the car driving home that when I'm not so fortunate to have a good salary or a good bank account, would I have given those €50 back also? If I was living out of debt or something like that. Well, I cannot say. Maybe my subconscious just didn't interfere with it because it knows we have enough money. Yeah. Don't know why I'm telling this example, but I'm just looking for an example.
There are no rules, but your heart knows in the moment.
Yeah. But it fills up with joy when this divine thing happens, or
not necessarily, not in an exciting way.
Okay.
Your heart starts to smile.
Yeah, inner smile.
But just because it's right and normal and
yeah,
the right thing to do.
It gets nothing out of this.
No.
And just a subtle feeling of this is...
The heart is not seeking thrills or excitement or confirmation or response or gratitude or anything. It just wants to share itself.
Yeah.
That's all it has. That's all it can. And if you live as a human being in a way that this does happen, and not in a just emotional buying and selling way as we usually misunderstand the word heart.
But that's what people call love, what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Unconditional love. For the love of everything.
Yeah, you are love. So don't live as something else.
So love is not something I get out of the world.
No, it's what you bring into the world.
Just as joy.
If you just leave out all the nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Is that what I mean with Sat Chit Ananda?
I hope so.
Well, there's this saying, huh? Sat Chit Ananda, bliss, happiness, truth. Yeah.
Well, all these words can be interpreted in cheap and fancy ways and very deep and truthful ways.
Yeah. So, recognizing myself as emptiness does that bring peace instantly, or is that just the beginning?
Well, it busts this voice of the subconscious.
It
busts.
Busts.
Stops.
Oh, it stops.
Because everything is just not even all right, even before something can be wrong or all right. So the subconscious has nothing to refer to or to measure or to complain about or to want different. So it stops. It has to stop. There's nothing near. There's no reference anymore. And then from this stopping, the whole system, the nervous system, can relax. That you can feel.
Yeah.
From this relaxation, space comes, and you can maybe hear this smile in the heart.
Yeah.
Then you know what to do.
Yeah, it sounds so easy.
It is easy, but it's not so easy to get not distracted by all those loud voices of beliefs and emotions.
For example, when I turn on the TV, almost every hour of the day, the television tells me that there's things to worry about.
Yeah. You should be producing, you should be worrying, you should be doing, you should be thinking about, you should...
Earning. Yeah.
I don't have a TV for that reason.
Yeah. And but this is the example of the TV, but there's a lot
TV is not very uplifting.
No. Radio sometimes. When I go outside, almost the whole world tells me that I have to be worrying about the future and preserving a space for myself and watch out if the neighbor doesn't get...
Yeah, humans live as tribal animals, and what do tribal animals do? They confirm their tribal bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And the tribal habits, and they are based on producing and achieving and competing.
Yeah. It's a fucked up world out there.
Yeah.
But how to deal with this world?
Well, there's not much we can do except being an inspiration of a bit less fucked upness.
That makes a difference.
Well, that's all I can know.
Yeah. And so you talk about this with people here at your house 2 times a month on the Wednesday evenings?
Yes.
In Bilthoven for the Dutch viewers. Do you also do Skype sessions or?
Yeah, that's why we do this English session too, so people from abroad can contact me too and have a chat.
And how can they find you, Stephen?
My email address is on my website, and my website is www.spirituele-integratie.nl. How do we do that?
I think the most easy way is just to
Google my name.
Yeah, and spell your names. Steven.
And then Noomen.
And what kind of people would you like to talk to?
People with genuine interest in what I have to tell.
Okay, but you could say that the last 40 minutes you told everything, or is that just the tip of the iceberg?
Oh, I can talk about so much more, yeah.
Yeah.
This fucked upness about the world is a whole... No, I can't go into that just in a first interview.
But let's, for example, say that I want a Skype session with you and I tell to you, my heart is broken because my lover just left me.
Then I would say you're a liar because it's not true.
Why is that not true?
Because your lover hasn't left you.
The lover is always there.
No, you're talking hypothetically.
Ah.
I know you.
Okay. But that are problems which people bring to the table. You know, a stolen car, a lover lost, a family member which died.
Mm-hmm.
Are you just like some radical Advaita teachers who say there was never a car, there was never a family member?
There have been moments that I spoke that way, yes.
Yeah.
But I tune in. I try to respond to what's needed. So I don't have a standard story.
No. Is that also the reason why there's no book?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there are so many spiritual books. Can we all throw them in the
Yeah,
fire?
man, good enough. And someone who needs my new book too.
No, but I mean that all those books, are they just rubbish then? That they don't capture the moment?
Well, if you find the very line that tells you what you need to hear right now in this very situation, then you have the good book.
Yeah.
All the rest is mental entertainment, which can be a preparation for recognizing what you do need to hear.
But this book, I Am That, by Nisargadatta, when I open it up, still now, it brings it touches this inner smile.
Yeah.
All those lines in there, or doesn't it? For me, it does.
For you, it does, not for me.
No. How come?
Because it's not what nurtures my being in this moment of the development process, apparently.
And that's one more interesting thing about to talk about. For example, Eckhart Tolle. I watched all his DVDs, I listened to his CDs for years and years, and now it just lays there. I'm totally not anymore into what Eckhart has to say. Is that a proof of what you're talking about? That this spiritual awakening, this self-inquiry, this finding your being, is an ongoing process?
Yes, of course. It's forever a discovery, a journey into the unknown. So as soon as you repeat yourself, you're either integrating and really getting familiar with what you've just discovered, or you're repeating yourself and refusing to go on. If that happens, then you will get bored and you'll find something new, I hope.
Yeah. So this search never stops?
No.
Even not when I leave this physical body?
No.
Search still goes on?
Mm-hmm. Then it really starts, actually.
Oh. And is there a purpose in this search?
Yes.
And then he smiles.
Yeah. Because this purpose... as soon as you... When I start to talk about that, people will listen with human ears.
Mm-hmm.
But this purpose is never seen from a human perspective. So, humanly spoken, there is no purpose. But for the human, there is a purpose to learn to recognize this beyond human perspective purpose. So that's why the essence of the whole game is first link yourself up with the quality of divinity in your intention.
Yeah.
Then you learn to recognize how important and in what way is my human intention of importance and in what way it isn't. Then it starts to fall into literal perspective. And before this is a direct experience, there's no use of talking about cosmic purpose things. Then you will listen with the wrong ears.
Yeah. So only you talk about these things only to people who are ready for them?
Well, or to tickle a bit to get them ready sometimes.
Yeah.
But not to enter into debate and discussions.
Yeah.
No. Then you just go mental.
Yeah. That has no purpose.
No.
No.
Opinions, beliefs.
Nobody
ever woke up because of opinions or beliefs.
No?
No.
Or a great quote from a website. Or your article in Inside magazine. They are all just pointers to the moon. Fingers pointing to the moon, as everybody talks about.
Yeah, or inspirations. You know, it's not always the understanding, the meaning of words. It's... You can never disconnect with a separate intention from the words why they were spoken. So if I say the weather is nice, they can have 10,000 different intentions behind it. And those are 10,000 different sentences then.
Yeah. Yeah. It all sounds to me like it's very subtle, this talking about this stuff.
Yeah, that's why it's an inner thing.
Why it's not a thing?
That is why it's an inner thing.
Inner thing.
Not an intellectual.
Yeah.
Spiritually is not about intellectual understanding. It's about an inner journey.
So if you could say anything about this inner voice, this heart, it's very subtle.
Yes.
It's what you just before said, not
it's
shouting.
recognizing in yourself, because you recognize it in other people that might inspire you, and then you don't know what you saw, what you felt, what you recognized, but you know there is something. And by experimenting with life and meeting people and maybe go to meetings, maybe whatever, you recognize it a few times again, and you learn to nurture it, and you learn to have words for it maybe, you learn to how to respond to it. It gets familiar, it gets bigger. It was something totally unknown, something you didn't even know you could discover.
Yeah.
And then you find out that there is something like that to discover, and then you start discovering it, and then you get familiar with it, and then get totally familiar with it, it becomes a basic part of the way you live.
Second nature.
That's what I call waking up.
Yeah. And does that have anything to do with age, Stephen?
I hope not.
Because some people say that awakening is just part of life, in the sense of that when you reach the age of, let's say, 40 or 45, 50, that it's normal that all those material things don't have that much importance. That you've gotten children.
Yeah, but it's still in the part of changing of emotional preferences and all those things. That's not a spiritual awakening.
No, this could happen at an age of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know several kids, even younger, who are amazingly spiritually awake, even at 4.
Yeah.
And I know people who are amazingly spiritually asleep at 104.
Yeah. Still, they say about children, Jesus also said, be childlike. Is it the normal way of living for every child, or is it also not one truth?
Well, that childlike innocence is spoiled soon enough by the way this civilization operates.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're imprinted with everything that corrupts it.
Yeah.
Conditioned, spoiled, and then they have to undo it themselves, because this spoil corruption thing, they absorb it, but just instinctively, not consciously.
Yeah.
You can't expect from a child that he thinks about what he's doing when he simply absorbs
Yeah.
the quality of intention of his parents.
And thinks that's normal. That's the way.
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
So when he grows up, it's his job to scrutinize all those programmings and see if they serve him as a human being, and serve him in the way he wants to live his life, and serve his spiritual needs, spiritual aspirations. All of it.
So how come, Stephen, when I look around, I see so much people unhappy and suffering? Regardless of what they're driving, eating. It's back to the beginning of the interview.
Basically because the disconnection from their true being is just way too much.
Yeah. They can't stand it.
Yeah. A human being who is disconnected of his true being keeps searching for happiness in a place where it can be found. So then you get cramped and frustrated, and you feel stuck. You feel imprisoned by life. And in fact you are, but you don't know that your own imprinting, which you can undo step by step, is largely responsible for that.
How come this message is not on the 8 o'clock news, Stephen?
Because people are so fascinated with excitement and opinions.
They keep their own suffering
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. It's like a drug addict. Last thing he will do is getting really saying, looking in the psychological mirror, what am I doing? No, he feels, life is a drag, so what to do? Well, give us another shot and don't feel that.
Yeah.
We're addicted to excitement and emotions and opinions and ideas and interaction and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
To the outer world. And because we believe that this promise that happiness and satisfaction will come from there, we just, it never occurs to us to investigate all these programmings and conditionings. Human speaking, in how we behave and how we are, and deeper in spiritual senses, what we are.
Mm-hmm. So being still is maybe one way to get to know.
Of course, but all spiritual traditions have always advocated meditation and prayer and always of being still, of course.
Solitude.
Yes.
Yeah. But really, like now, going to Google and searching for a little cabin in the woods and going there for 4 weeks on my own.
You could do that, yes.
Yeah, sounds scary.
That's why you should do it.
Ah, so everything I think is scary, do it.
No.
But in this example, yeah. And people say, well, then you get to know yourself.
Well, you might set a few steps, yes.
Yeah.
4 weeks is not so long.
Because this is an ongoing process.
In Tibet, there was a tradition of going into a cave, totally locked up, no sunlight, no noise, only food. People stay there for years.
What does it do?
Everything spiritually. They transcended and left this physical world, leaving behind only their nails and their hair.
Yeah. Well, I don't know for sure if that's what I want.
They didn't die, they finally became alive.
Ah, yeah. That's what you mean, yeah. So Wayne Dyer, a spiritual person from America who just passed away a couple of months ago, says, don't die with your music still in you. Or die, what you hear a lot of other teachers say, die while you're still alive. Is that what are they pointing at the same thing you're talking about?
I don't know. Might be. People are here for very different purposes, and only you can know what your soul's purpose is.
Yeah.
I know of people who were simply here just to observe this strange human world, and then they left, and it's the only human presence they ever had in history of the planet. Other people are really here to experiment with this human world and come again and again and again and again and again until they've had a taste of everything. That's dangerous because you can get very addicted and very disconnected from your soul. And that's why the age-old spiritual traditions speak about this karma thing and attachments and...
Yeah.
But it's, you can't say. For one person might be, and for another person might be very different. You have to learn inside and find out.
What
your soul is telling you, so learn to listen.
Yeah. And this tension, which a lot of people feel, this stress, is when you're not aligned with that thing you're here for.
Well, yeah.
That you're only listening to that subconscious who says,
well,
get more,
yeah,
do this, do
still,
that.
The undoing of these conditionings can be a painful process, which causes a lot of stress too. So it's not necessary, if I link up, I live a happy and relaxed life. That's not necessarily the case. On the contrary, if you're going through the transformation which is actually needed, the stress will get much worse. I always compare it with a caterpillar who turns into a butterfly. Mm-hmm. Well, we see the caterpillar and we see the cocoon and we see the butterfly, but nobody ever sees what happens in the cocoon. Do you know?
No.
The whole caterpillar dissolves into soup.
While it's still alive?
Stays alive. Yeah. Nobody understands how that can happen, but it's just one big dirty goo, and for some reason it changes into a butterfly.
Yeah.
Now imagine how that is to be that caterpillar. That's not a relaxed life.
No. But with the promise of becoming a beautiful butterfly.
Just a promise.
You don't know?
As a caterpillar, he doesn't know that.
No, okay. Yeah. Because that's why a lot of people get into spirituality, me too, with the promise of becoming someone who has no more stress, who is living a very peaceful life.
Yeah, might be, but don't count on it.
Yeah, but why bother then?
Because it makes your heart sing. It's because you want to live the way it should be lived. That's all you should be interested in. not to get something from life.
Yeah.
How do you want to live? That's the only way, the only question that matters. When you're lying on your bed dying, then that's what you ask yourself. Did I live the way I really wanted to live my life?
And with that I, you mean the I of intention.
Everything. Your personal I, your personal intention, your personal me thing. Did I link up with what makes my soul smile?
Mm-hmm.
If you did, then you did it right. And then you will feel very happy and satisfied. I didn't succeed in everything, but I approached it in the right way, I know for sure. Then you will die with a smile on your face.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stephen.